Good evening and welcome back to Ask 9. I'm Becky Phelps.
I'm Jim Mertens, and this is the night that the governor gives her condition of the state address, pretty much to talk about the accomplishments of the last year, of course, to recognize Iowans that have been exceptional. I'm sure she's going to be talking about the National Guardsman who died in the line of duty in Syria and give a tribute there. And she also introduces her policies that she wants to see in her last full year in office as governor. She's not seeking re-election. So this is a pivotal session for her, kind of a chance to put her last imprint on the state of Iowa.
Yeah, there is a lot going into tonight's address, which is why we wanted to take this time during tonight's show to give you an idea of what to expect. And you will be able to watch the address in its entirety on KCRG.com. We will have, if you just go to our website, it will be pinned at the very top, the very first article, and we'll have that live streaming for you starting at 6 o'clock.
So the governor will walk in at about 6 o'clock, and there will be applause, usually standing ovation. It takes a while for her to actually reach the podium, the lectern, to the dais, whatever you want to call it.
It is a production.
It takes a while, and then, as we said, she will start off usually by recognizing people and thanking, and then somewhere midway she'll say the condition of the state is usually good.
Usually it is good. I'd be surprising a little bit.
Sometimes they change it, oh, it's excellent or whatever, but that's
we could
usually
get better than good.
Yeah, and to be honest, because we're looking forward to Dave Price, who covers politics for us out of Des Moines, to talk about what is expected in this particular address. But it's an address that sometimes you have to listen to very carefully because something interesting or a major priority that you weren't expecting might be unveiled. I mean, you think back of the area education associations, the AEAs,
yes.
That were basically changed from the bottom floor up, and the legislature and people weren't really anticipating that, but that's something that the governor really wanted. She pushed it through the legislature, and it became law at the end of that session.
Yeah, tonight is going to be such an incredible indicator of what we can expect throughout the rest of the legislative session. It will be very interesting what she says her priorities are.
Well, and the other thing I think that's going to be interesting in this particular session is, as we said, this is the last session for Governor Reynolds, who's, of course, a Republican. She has a Republican majorities in both the House and the Senate, not a supermajority in the Senate anymore.
By one.
By one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she can't just, and that usually impacts when you appoint somebody or you're trying to get somebody into a position that you're going to need one Democratic vote for. But for a lot of legislation,
yes,
the majority will be enough, and it'll be interesting, in my opinion, to see what Republicans do in the legislature, knowing that this is the governor's last session. They can kind of push back, and they can kind of go their own road, perhaps not as the governor will lay out her priorities of this year.
Yeah, so let's hear from KCRG Political Director Dave Price, who has been in Des Moines all day working very hard leading up to this address.
Kim Reynolds has been Iowa's governor for every year since Republicans took over majority control of the Iowa House and Senate in 2017. So in 2026, she will stand before this Republican-led legislature and tell them what she would like to accomplish in what will now be her final year in office.
Ranking and aligning governments.
At last year's Condition of the State address, the governor told lawmakers that she wanted money for cancer research, Medicaid work requirements, a DOGE task force, forcing drivers to put down their phones, and similar policy for kids in the classroom.
It's unhealthy, and the results are as predictable as they are unacceptable. Lost sleep, lower productivity, more distractions, and increased anxiety.
The Republican-led legislature approved much of what the governor had wanted, but the governor also vetoed that eminent domain restrictions bill, something that a lot of the Republicans had voted for, and some of them were very angry at what she did. We will see now, a year later, if all is forgiven and these Republicans will help pass the governor's final list of recommendations in her final year in office. At the Iowa State Capitol Bureau, I'm Dave Price.
Eminent domain definitely expected to be a topic of discussion Also, property taxes. That's already been brought up by both Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, and it's been pretty much promised that that is perhaps the premier position that the governor is going to take in regards to property taxes. That is going to be her main issue tonight. That's what the pundits say. That's what's expected. It's been promised. It wasn't in the last legislative session. It was introduced. It didn't get through for passage. So, I mean, lawmakers have already been working on this. They just didn't think they had enough to get a final decision on property tax reform in the last session. On the other hand, eminent domain was something that it ended up being a floor fight between Republicans among Republicans, which you don't see, we haven't really seen since, as Dave said, 2017. That was an issue that really pit Republican against Republican, and the governor definitely didn't want that on her desk. And sure enough, it was forced through the Senate. It was a big deal. It ended up on her desk, and as you know, it was vetoed.
Yeah, so it will be interesting to see if they bring it back up, if there'll be more fighting.
And if it'll be vetoed again.
And if it will be vetoed again. You know what Reynolds will choose to do with her last year in office.
Yeah, so I mean, eminent domain is going to be a major issue, but as you said, property tax reform, they've been trying to go at every single form of taxation.
Yeah.
They eliminated the tax basically for seniors. The income tax has been capped far lower than it ever was. One of the biggest concerns that lawmakers say that they've heard over and over again is the high cost of property taxes. Now, as you well know, property taxes really don't fund much, if any, of state government issues. It funds local government, it funds school districts, and a lot of those other different entities that are very local. And the argument always has been is that school boards, city councils will say, look, we're good guardians of the budget. We're keeping expenses low. State lawmakers say, no, property taxes have been expanding faster than they should.
Yeah, House Democrats have already suggested freezing property taxes for homeowners over the age of 65. They came out, I think, last week with that proposal. Senate Republicans have announced they want to reduce, let me get this right, reduce property tax rates when inflation exceeds 2%.
I talked to a Republican, I think it's House Ways and Means chairman. It's Gary Moore, a Republican out of the Quad Cities, who said as far as freezing taxes for seniors, he's kind of against that. So there's a little bit of fight within Republicans because he believes that wealthy people shouldn't be exempt. So if you're over 65 and you have a ton of money or you're still making a ton of money, why should you be exempt when a person who's struggling at 65 would get exempt? So he has an issue with that. And that's one of those things that I think you're going to hear Republicans discuss, is that maybe a blanket isn't right. There's certain people that should still be paying taxes if they're over the age of 65. So that's one of those things that we can expect to hear.
That's very interesting because they've also already brought up they want to give a raise to themselves, to state legislators. And the argument that they've given there is that if they don't give a raise, which right now they get about $25,000 and some stipends, if they don't give lawmakers a raise, then the only people who are able to serve are those who are retired and have the time and who are wealthy and don't need the money. So that's interesting.
It is a fair argument, but there's also that argument that Iowa's always been proud of having part-time lawmakers.
Yes.
If they don't get all the bills, if they don't get everything done by a certain date, the cutoff date is there, and any work not done, they don't necessarily get paid for it. So so that makes their deadline so important for all of the legislation, but also underlines that they're citizen lawmakers. If you have a second, it's just been 2 days of the legislature. The legislature opened yesterday and today. They have already introduced 124 bills. I counted them all.
Buckle up. We're going to read them all right now. Jim's going to read them all right now.
57 of them were presented today, 67 were presented today. 57 were presented yesterday. Here's just a couple that I found most interesting. Introduced yesterday a bill for an act relating to general education requirements, core curricula, other functions of Regents institutions, including applicability provisions. Now, what that means is that the House Higher Education Committee is going to be coming up with ideas on basically core curriculum or what you would call your general education especially in their first 2 years of college. They want to make sure that you're learning civics, American history, and so that is a huge bill that is going to be going through. And I know that the higher education, we're going to be talking about that a little later on this week. The Higher Education Committee is going to be really looking at core curriculum. Another one, a bill for an act designating kratom as a Schedule I controlled substance. Right now, it's really not under control in Iowa. It's not a controlled substance of any kind. I think more than 23 states, more than 20 states, I should say, it's either 23 or 24, have already have legislation regarding this.
That's interesting.
So,
I don't recall a lot of attention being given to kratom either before this.
I think you're going to see a discussion of it, and like you said, it hasn't gotten the attention that it probably should. This one's a big deal. Because it's a bill for an act prohibiting school districts, charter schools, and innovation zone schools for providing any program, curriculum, test, survey, questionnaire, promotion, or instruction related to gender, theory, or sexual orientation instruction in grades 7 through 12. Why is this one important? This is the same basic bill that prohibits it from kindergarten to 6th grade, which is right now in the Court of Appeals in St. Louis. It was being discussed as there's a court challenge in regards to this from kindergarten to 6th grade going on right now with a federal court making a decision. This bill would extend it all the way through high school.
Yeah, and they're not waiting to see if it settles in the courts. They
Yeah.
are going right on ahead with this.
So I thought that was interesting. We've got the eminent domain. Of course, that bill was introduced almost immediately yesterday. And today, there's interesting bills. A bill for an act relating to historical resource research centers.
We have covered this out a lot. We've covered this a lot. This has to do with the Iowa City Historical Center that back in July, the state announced they were going to shut it down in 1 year. They said, we're going to move everything that we can to Des Moines. We might have to get rid of some stuff. We don't know what the plan is exactly, but the plan is we have to shut this down in Iowa City because of budget issues. This would reverse that.
It's that effort.
It's an effort. It's a bipartisan effort to reverse it, which is also interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Some Iowa City lawmakers, some Coralville lawmakers.
Bobby Kaufman's on this.
Yes, who's a Republican. And that will be very interesting because we just got through like this whole are they even allowed to do this?
Well, this is under court review as well.
Yes.
Because there's a lawsuit being filed to stop the closure of the Iowa City Historical Center. So, I mean, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, they want to stop that entirely, which
there
there have been a lot of protests over.
Also, a bill for an act relating to the taxation and regulation of alternative nicotine products and vapor products,
Ooh.
creating the Iowa Cancer Research Fund and including effective date and provision.
A note about these, by the way, is these sentences that we're reading is all the information we have right now about these bills. We don't have them in full. That's not up yet. So we are getting just a little sneak peek preview of the long list of things to come.
Yeah, that's one way to say it. Yeah,
Jim
it's
is
a long,
flipping pages
long
over
list.
here.
Well, I just want to throw one more in, and once again, you're going to see a lot of attention towards education. And also, there's a bill for an act providing for education related to the Holocaust for students and teachers in school districts. That will be introduced as well. Now, here's another thing that I really want to point out, is that, like I said, we have got 124 bills just introduced yesterday and today. They don't all get approved. I mean,
Not even close.
There is a lot of lawmakers who will introduce things, sometimes just to start the discussion or to get attention or start a debate. And so we're going to see a lot of bills that you'll be sitting there going, what? How are they really going to do that? And so
A lot of them won't make it out of a subcommittee. So we try really hard at KCRG to focus in on the bills that are going somewhere or are a part of a huge discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't be able to cover every single bill that gets introduced, but we will do our best, of course, to cover all of the bills that impact our viewers and that are more likely to make it through a subcommittee, make it into discussion. But we will know, let's take a look at this. I'll zoom in here so it's a little easier to read. This is the timetable.
Mm-hmm.
So they clocked in yesterday for the first day of the session. The final day to request some drafts is coming up January 23rd. Final day for things to get out of some committees, the 20th of February. This is kind of an idea. This is a look at when we're going to see certain, they're called funnel dates coming through. So this is available on the legislative website. This is one of the big funnels for March.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, March 30th is one of the huge funnels. This huge wall of text here, you'll see.
And it has a catch-all on the bottom, unfinished business.
Yes, just in case they want to sneak anything through.
Right.
But there will be a couple of big dates that we will be covering to let you guys know what's dead on arrival and what's kind of snuck through these big funnel dates.
So once again, the governor will make her condition of the state address, and you're going to see her discuss particularly budgetary issues, but also some of these social or education or health, as David mentioned, cancer research,
Yes.
an emphasis on that was in a prior condition of the state. And so it really does give you a little bit of a blueprint that Republicans can run with. But when we're pointing out what Republicans and Democrats have already introduced into the legislature, I mean, they don't rubber stamp. They've got ideas of their own. And that's why I think this is going to be a very interesting legislative session. The other reason why it's interesting, it's an election year. And so
Yes.
you might see some of these bills that are trying to make the other side look bad. Or you might have a bill that really helps your base. So it's going to be an interesting session because it is an election year.
Very true.
Everyone's setting the table for November, including the governor tonight.
Yes. Tonight, the condition of the state starting at 6 o'clock. You can watch that on our apps and on our website. We'll be live streaming it. Afterwards, I don't believe we'll be carrying this via live stream, but afterwards, Janice Weinert will be delivering the opposition's address to Governor Reynolds' speech tonight, and we'll have some of that coverage in our newscasts tomorrow. And many more of these to come. We have the condition of the guard and all of the condition of the courts coming up. The courts is tomorrow and the guard is Thursday.
Right.
So we are just getting started.
Yeah, it's the start of the 2026 legislative session. Anything can happen, but once again, we're expecting the real emphasis in this session to be a property tax issue. Eminent domain is going to be coming up, and we're covering particularly higher education and how that's going to affect the regent universities, which would be, of course, the University of Iowa, Iowa State, and Northern Iowa.
Thank you so much for joining us here tonight on Ask 9. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of an easier path into tonight's condition of the state. As always,
Bring your popcorn. Watch it tonight.
We'll have ours. Get ready. Get your notepad ready. Be ready for anything.
There is a group of nerds among us that do enjoy watching this every year. So,
if you have any questions you'd like us to ask or answer here on Ask 9, shoot us a message on Facebook, send us an email. Have a great evening.